Let's do more practice. Two examples here. The first example is the movement of the interest rate over the business cycle. Yeah, if you can remember, the business cycle means the fluctuation of the economic activities in the short terms. Business cycle normally include two totally opposite periods. One is called economic downturn or recession. One is called economic expansions. So now let's focus on the first one. What happened to the interest rate during economic downturn and the recessions? So again, we have to follow the 3 steps to answer this question. The first step, you have to decide whether this event will affect supply, demand, or both. So economic downturn is a recession. What is a recession? Recession means the GDP of the one country decline for more than 2 quarters. GDP is the total output of the one country. GDP is also total income of the countries. So if the income of the country reduces, you can imagine what happened to the people's wealth. During the recession, income reduces, people lose employment, so wealth will go down. Then you have to record the other factors. Wealth is a part of the factor will affect bond demand. Because the reduction in the wealth, people will buy less bonds, so bond demand goes down. But could a recession also affect the supply side? In this case, yes. During the recession, if you are manager of the firm, are you going to carry out many projects? Do you see many profitable opportunities? No. So the expected profitability of the firms will go down because recession there's not much to invest. As a result, firms will issue less bond to borrow money. They are not going to carry out the project. Firms are not going to issue the bonds. So bond here, if you can record, bond supply actually go down as well. So from the step 1, we can see recession actually affect both the bond demand and the supply. If a bond demand down, it normally means bond demand curve will shift to the left. If a bond supply curve goes down, we also know bond supply curve will shift to the left. Okay. So now we actually can draw the graph to analyze what happens. Price of the bond, quantity of the bond, supply and demand. Again, you can assume P0 and the Q0 are the initial price and the quantity. So we already from the step 2 know the bond demand curve will shift to the left, bond supply curve will also shift to the left. But here, do we know which curve will shift more than the other curve? No. The question does not give you any information related to the size of the shift of each curve. So we have to assume first scenario, if a bond demand curve shift to the left a lot, you can see here, right? But the bond supply curve only shift to the left a little bit. You also can see from the size here. So now where is the new equilibrium point? We use the supply curve and the new demand curve. We can see the new equilibrium point is actually here. So the bond price drop, equilibrium quantity goes down. So if the price of the bonds drop, it means interest rate will up, right? But however, this is the first scenario because we assume the bond demand curve shift more than the supply curve. And some of you may ask the question, what about if the bond supply shift more than the bond demand, what happen? You have to draw another graph. Okay, so that's the basic setup. And in this case, if bond supply curve still shift to the left, but we assume shift to the left a lot. But the bond demand curve only shift to the left a little bit. Now from my graph, can you find out what's the new equilibrium? Use the D prime here and the S prime here. You actually can find out a new equilibrium point. So now we actually can find out the new equilibrium price and the quantity. So in this case, the model indicates the price of the bonds. If you look at it from P0 to P1, go up. So which means interest rate will down. So this is a totally different from the first scenario, because first scenario we know the interest rate will increase, but here we know interest rate will reduce. So some of you may ask the question here, whether interest rate will increase or decrease. Our theoretical model here, our model indicate interest rate could go up or down, depend on whether the demand curve or the supply curve will shift than the other. Right? Using the A and B, we can see. But what happened in the real world? Everyone please keep in mind, because the theory here say there are two possible outcomes. So we have to relate to the empirical evidence. Empirical evidence actually indicate the interest rate normally decrease during the recession. So which means empirical evidence support the second scenario here, the B. Which means the bond supply curve will shift more than the bond demand curve to the left. Which means, again, the supply of the bond will reduce a lot compared to the reduction in the bond demand. So that's the reason it will push up the bond price and lead to the interest rate reduce. So empirical evidence is more consistent with the scenario B. Even the theory actually say there are two possible scenarios. But when you answer a question like this, you have to emphasize empirical evidence only support the one of these two scenarios. Interest rate actually go down during the economic recessions.